Hello again and welcome to another Beyond All Reason video. Today we have the Big Dolph taking on the #1 player in 1v1s, rAndy. Now we've seen Dolfy play on this map many times before, and we will see if he is able to defeat the #1 player in Beyond All Reason. Now, as you're aware, when we saw Dolfy use this map before, we saw him take a keen advantage of using these top hills here to move bots through the hills to get flank attacks all around the sides. But will that work on the man that is rAndy? We will find out. Now, obviously, they've got some friendly banter going on in the chat above. And Dolfy being Cortex starting bot, which is an obvious move in this game with the hills above, as we've just discussed. And rAndy is also Cortex bots. Both players not really going for any early harass here. We see rAndy getting an engineer out, 2 engineers actually. And Dolfy doing the same thing. He has built a single grunt beforehand, but he is having significant power issues right now. And this grunt, he is planning to use it as some form of harass, but by the time that grunt gets across, rAndy will have built both of those engineers and probably be moving on to his own grunts. Yes, so because the map is so big, it's difficult for harassing units to actually get across in time to be significant. Hence the reason why both players have gone quite heavy into building engineers early off in order to expand as quick as possible without the fear of being contested. Now, as we've mentioned before, it'll be interesting to see if we're going to see any form of use of this water. In the 2v2, we did see it with Dolfy building amphibious tanks to harass this bottom corner player. But with it in a 1v1, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm expecting 90% of the fighting to be happening up here at the top, and the majority of the bottom half to be left completely alone. Maybe have some harassing tactics and that's all. But we are seeing a bit of an issue here. Dolfy with only 4 grunts, but rAndy already has a wave of 9 grunts coming towards him. And does Dolfy actually have the vision to see this coming yet? No, he does not. That's dangerous. And they're just coming into vision now. Dolfy is trying to move his units that he had into position, but he's now forced his commander to quickly try and assist the factory and get as many grunts out as he can. But this is not looking good. There's a substantial force of grunts coming in, and rAndy here doing a great job at splitting up his grunts, forcing Dolfy to have to defend multiple locations. We've got a group of 3 here, this group of 3 at the bottom, and the group of 3 at the top, splitting Dolphy's micro into multiple locations. And because of that, Dolfy will lose a metal extractor. Does defend his north base. In the end, though, if Dolfy gets a res bot out or something like that, he will be in a more significant advantage here. He only lost 1 metal extractor for the cost of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 grunts. Dolphy's 1, I think it was, because it moved into the laser tower, maybe 2. So, yeah, I mean, Dolfy actually came out of that on head. Again, we're seeing another set of grunts coming in here from rAndy. rAndy managing to snipe just 1 grunt out before moving off. Dolphy's 2 grunts on the bottom here are basically dead. Both are basically 1 hit away from being destroyed. So they're not going to be able to participate much firepower if they get targeted down. Meanwhile, rAndy just keeping the harass of this back units, causing him to move and react. So we see Dolfy does have some radar vision, but has now lost it on them. just moving his forces down in order to try and keep some form of like defensive posturing. As we look, we see a couple of unarmed mechs being built on this south side here by rAndy. This is going to kind of protect from any like flanking maneuvers. And Dolfy will be able to clear up these small harassing grunts there, which does free up his units to defend elsewhere. But again, we have a substantial chunk of grunts here from rAndy. Loses 2 for 1 though. It's a bad trade. It's 10 versus 7 at the moment though, but with the commander right behind it, there's only so much he's going to be able to do. And we do see here a key difference in the methodology of the two players. Now, as you see, Dolfy's commander walking very close to the front line, pushing forward, supporting his troops with vision from the radar, building LLTs and such. Whereas rAndy, different strategy. He's just deciding to stay in base, use the strong build power that the commander has, and just try and build as much economy and as much build power into his projects as possible in order to overbuild the enemy player. Now, this does mean that his front is a bit weaker. He has a single engineer here at the moment, which is pushing forward to assist these units. And that will help. But obviously, the commander has the advantage of the D-gun, obviously. And with that, if rAndy goes in too strong, that will force rAndy to have to try and swarm him. And that will mean that he may lose a vast amount of units to a D-gun, which will turn the tide very quickly. And you can see both players posturing here, trying to get closer. Now Dolfy's going to come in for maybe that D-gun on the armed mechs, and he does. And there you go. Because of that, Dolfy now has a strong position here to hold those advanced mechs in the middle. Meanwhile, we see a little bit of harass here coming in from the bottom, from the 3 grunts that were left. There are armed metal extractors here, which will cause some problems. Unfortunately, Dolfy will be able to get through them if he notices that that's an armed mech as well. Which he hasn't, because he's concentrating on the top line here. Double LLTs going up. These are great to deal with grunts. And obviously can only be built by engineers. So this is one thing that Dolfy's commander can't do. Saying that, at the same time, we see a very forward construction turrets being built here by Dolfy in order to assist the repair of all of the grunts that he has, and also speed up any future building on the front line. That would surprise me if we're going to see Dolfy build like a very forward vehicle factory here to push down the forces. We also should expect to see some engineers expanding to get these 3 mechs here that are just outside of his base. You see some Rocketeers being built. The expectation to push through. Meanwhile, we see 29 grunts going south. In fact, more than that. Probably about 36. Oh, wow, I'm miles off. 41 grunts going south. That is a lot of grunts. And with that, rAndy has just transitioned to all vehicles on the front line. But this does open up the exact thing that we mentioned of, where Dolfy is going to be able to move along these hills and not be contested by the vehicles. HLT being built here in order to take out the defensive turrets that rAndy has built. We do see here the start of that vehicle factory on the front line. Now, for those that don't know, heavy laser towers obviously have the biggest range in Tech 1 defenses, with the exception of the artillery. And they do outrange the Rocketeers. But this does mean they're obviously very expensive. 4,700 energy and 480 metal, as opposed to the 195 of a double LLT. So, as you can expect, the cost to build on them is quite substantial. And meanwhile, on the bottom, we see the wall of grunts about to go straight head into each other, as neither player knows that each other's mass grunt swarm is there. unfortunately, rAndy has just thrown a lot of them into the wall and has not really done much. Meanwhile, the artillery that has come out from the vehicle factory is whittling away the defenses of rAndy. And on top of that, he obviously has this mass force of grunts in the hills, which rAndy is unable to stop. Can he see them in there? Yes, he can. And the wave of grunts on the south side is about to go in. Obviously, Dolfy did not know the quantity that was down there. And now he's desperately going to have to send some forces down to deal with the, let's see, 35 grunts that are still down there. So, urgently going to have to shift some forces down there. And you can see he basically selects every grunt he has and sends it south, leaving just vehicles. But we are in the right time to catch the attack here on the north. And here they come. Dolphy's attack. Now, unfortunately, rAndy did a great job there of building a lot of laser towers around the edge. And that has kind of stifled the attack a bit. And also, what is also stifling rAndy's attack is the amount of LLTs. He does manage to take out 2 engineers, exploiter, but that is it. And with that, only 11 of the 40 something grunts that started off the attack are left. As we transition back to the top, the slow creep of artillery with pounders in the front. Pounders, though, are not going to do too well versus the quantity of brutes coming out from rAndy right now. And Dolphy's commander, a bit too close to the front there for my liking. We managed to catch a good side harass here from rAndy. He misses the initial laser towers at the front. Does get some economy damage. Splits up his grunts here to try and separate the attacking forces that are coming to stop him. And manages to get an additional 3 metal spots. Not a lot, but enough to cause some harassment. And at the same time, we have another 40 plus grunts going to the south side by Dolfy now. Using a single scout tank here. Not that you normally have a scout tank, but just sending 1 tank forward in order to get a bit of vision. And we do see Dolfy going Tech 2. At the same time, rAndy is also going Tech 2. This is interesting to see. Both players timing it exactly the same. Dolfy with, I would expect to have a slight economy advantage right now. However, he doesn't. He has some idle engineers here, unfortunately. Not getting this expansion mechs. There's 3 mechs here that are uncapped. There's another 3 down here. There's a lot of empty metal points, and this might come to bite Dolfy in the butt. Trying to rush his engineers back. The large amount of, let's see, we've got 39 plus 49, so 50 grunts on the south side. And rAndy only has 22. So not great. He is trying to send more units down there, but Tech 2 has been finished for rAndy and Dolfy, and both players building Zars. Interesting that you don't see these very often, yet when we see this map being played, it always tends to be Zars getting built. So I don't know what it is about this specific map and Zars, but both players like them quite a bit. I mean, they are quite good against swarms, as long as you spread these tanks out, though. See, as we see the damage dealt by that. It almost killed 2 with 3 shots. And rAndy having to fall back. Also having to fall back on the south side now, as there's still 34 left to 20. If anything, like 40 something. But we see a Banisher out rather than a second Tsar, which is what Dolfy has decided to go. And the Tsar here of rAndy will do a pretty good job at keeping those tanks from pushing too far. 2 Tsars out now from Dolfy. Are we seeing another Banisher? So 2 Banishers and a Tsar for rAndy. And we're seeing 2 Tsars out from Dolfy, with a Banisher being built now as well. Banishers are great single target damage. They have great long range. They are basically just the upgraded version of a Janus, and will outrange that Tsar and will slowly whittle it down if it gets to be kept alive. And we can see that one Tsar's almost dead. And if it gets one more hit, it's dead. And it does go up. The Tsar does deal great with Swarm, but if it does get surrounded, which it is about to be done, that Tsar will probably go down as well. But even if it does, it is on the front line right next to rAndy. So he can just resurrect that or reclaim it with the very vast amount of metal that's in it. However, saying that, little beknownst to rAndy, there is a significant amount of grunts coming into the back of his base, which he has not noticed yet. And he's literally just rushing everything back to deal with that now. At the same time, rAndy did push in quite heavily with his tanks there. But watching this economy damage may be more important if Dolfy can play it off here and get significant economy damage. And we will see some wins. Will they chain? I think they might be just far enough so that they don't all chain. Metal Maker economy does go up, but they all actually run right into rAndy's commander, which he does manage to get D-guns off and kill most of the attacking stuff. But a substantial windmill farm and Metal Maker economy does get destroyed. And with that, at the same time, rAndy also lost the majority of his Tech 1 forces there, leaving him with just Banishers. This is not looking good for rAndy. We quickly check the statistics here. We can see metal produced. rAndy is in the lead by about 5k. And in terms of energy produced, rAndy is like miles ahead. But energy doesn't matter if you can't use it. So yeah, at the moment, most thing that matters is metal. With these vehicles being produced, all about metal. And we're at the 17-minute mark now. rAndy has nothing currently to defend this bottom flank. He has built a substantial wall of laser towers here, which will probably do a good job with it, but he is sacrificing these 4 mexes at the bottom. At the same time, we can see that Dolfy is slowly expanding along this south side, which should help him keep up and try and catch up, at least, with the metal production of rAndy. And we are seeing the start of some Tigers being built. These are very good all-round tanks here, and are basically the flat upgrade from the Brutes. However, as you can see, with enough Banishers, they don't matter. They'll just die anyway, and they will leave a significant chunk of metal on the field if they do die. He does pull them back in time, though. And the res bots from Dolfy here doing a great job at actually resurrecting his fallen units so far. Whereas rAndy hasn't managed to do that. We get a reclaim off a 96, that was 96% resurrected, and instead he decided to get the reclaim, which he does manage to do. And that does clear up that wreck from the field. A 990 metal is a lot of metal. And we are actually seeing a surprising use here of a geothermal plasma battery. Now, you don't see those used very often, and you can see the range. It goes all the way up to here. That is going to force rAndy to basically go either all in on getting that dart destroyed, or he's going to have to substantially fall back right into his base, which is not what he wants to do right now. He is also getting, I thought he saw mine layer being built, but he's changed his mind, it seems. Oh, he has built mine layer there. Whether he plans on using that as a mine layer will be interesting. He might just plan on using it as build proximity cameras and some walls, or it does have jamming as well. Very small area around it. Now, the thing is, Dolfy is investing a lot of metal into that Cerberus. Meanwhile, rAndy is building units. We're about to see if it's going to pay off. Meanwhile, on the south side, we do see another attack coming in here. And the other spectators are still not surprised that these units are able to get through. With no radar on the south side, they can just happily walk through. Doesn't actually clear up that mechs, though. He's focusing elsewhere at the moment. And that is with these massive explosions going on up here at the front. Now, what we do see rAndy doing is basically queuing up a bunch of vehicle scouts here to basically try and take some of the fire from this Cerberus. We'll see if that works out for him. It's not going to work if it gets manual fired, which it wouldn't surprise me if a player such as Dolfy will do. They're going to walk right into these mines. That is a very good placement of those mines there. And that assault force gets completely wiped up. And we also do see air coming out from Dolfy. Now, that's a very good use of that geothermal point up there. You don't often see that actually getting used. And yes, we see rAndy being forced right back into his base near some very explosive base structures there. And we see the scouts coming over as well. Anti-nuke being built by rAndy. He clearly must think that he's going to be here for a little while. What can he do? What can he do to counter this? He's building fighters, building scouts, building more banishers, and building more grunts. But with the distance he's had to fall back now, these banishers have they could just push right up to just outside of his base, and that's it. Just slowly pepper him. Now, banishers also can hit air, so flying these scouts over is actually also using banisher shots. I don't know whether that's necessarily what he intends with them, but if that is the case, that's really good. Because that was 4 shots there, banishers just wasted. And yeah, we see another push about to be attempted on the south side. We see on the map there a lot of damaged units for rAndy. These SARs are still like half health, or less than half health. And rAndy not able to close in on these banishers, just taking so much damage, having to fall back yet again. And this is tough for rAndy. Has to do something big here to pull this back. What is his play? He's getting Tech 2 Eco up. Can we say the same for Dolfy? Surprisingly, no. Not right now. He has 3 Tech 2 mexes, but that's it. His Tech 2 engineers are idle. We actually see a counter pop-up artillery turret being built here. Surprising amount of pork, as the saying goes, being built. And this arm metal extractor will not survive long. rAndy is babysitting it with that resbot though, ready to pull back into the next one. Dolfy sees that, focusing down those engineers. But saying that, the amount of stuff that was killed will mop up that attack. And he still has an engineer down there that he can slowly just push out. And he actually has a substantial amount of engineers down here, slowly building more mexes on the south side. And rAndy is way, way, way further ahead on the Tech 2 metal production. And we may see that coming into play here with a sheer amount more units, and actually we are seeing poison arrows being built. Now this may be what turns the battle here. These will be able to get right up on this Tech 2 building up here, or the Cerberus, completely free in that area, or it can go straight for his main base. Now, I don't know what is the best play there. Obviously, the Cerberus is really heavily defended, but the main base isn't, like, that important, really. I mean, he's got some wins there, yes, and he's got a bit of Metal Maker economy going on, but the majority of his economy now is actually towards the front, if anything. So, I'll be interested to see where he plans on moving them. A bunch of random mines being built along the bottom here to stop any further harass. And as we predicted, not much really goes on this south side at all. But we do see scouts coming across to see what is down there. There is a large group of grunts again on the bottom side, but we'll get mopped up fairly quickly if it goes through all of those mines anyway. I'm interested to see what happens to these 3 poison arrows, and does he continue building any more after that? No, he does not. And now this middle here is just completely turned into no man's land. And they are not going for the Cerberus. They are indeed going for the main base and the economy. Dolfy, though, actually queuing up naval. Oh, but this is interesting. Dolphy's commander is about to walk in directly where these poison arrows are, and Dolfy just sees them and forgets that you can't degun underwater. It does stop that poison arrow coming out, but is there anything to stop these? They will slowly get EMP'd. There's not much you can do about that, which will lock those down pretty quick. We are maybe about to see a bunch of friendly fire damage, though, coming in from the Cerberus if he's not careful. Surprisingly, I don't think these are going to do quite as much as we'd hoped. With all the shurikens, they are going to get mopped up fairly quickly. But the splash damage from them is pretty good. What Dolfy could do is he could use the capture command and actually capture the poison arrows that are EMP'd and then send them back. But deciding to not bother with that. And interestingly enough, I don't know if this is a bug or what. But because this is half underwater but then also not underwater, it's not getting EMP'd. So, yeah. Bug report, devs, maybe? Meanwhile, on the bottom side, we do see a Tech 2 push coming in. That is not going to survive. Grunts are not going to stop that. And although there are lots of double mexes there, laser-towered mexes, they're not going to do much, really, to stop Tech 2 tanks pushing in. And we're going to have some Tech 2 units going down there. But does rAndy have the units to spare? It's amazing to see the size of rAndy's base on the map now. And here comes the Tech 2. A lot of wind actually was planned to be built down here, which is now being cancelled out. The Tech 2 tanks are rushing down of rAndy. That will probably be mopped up quite well. We'll get some substantial damage done, but not enough to really do enough to worry him. A bulwark's actually being built. This is a very defensive game here from rAndy. He does have some fusions up as well. And Tech 2 energy converters are also being built. But I don't really see anything game ending here. Tech 2 air. And as we look at Dolfy here, again, the same. Nothing really game ending. He is going for an advanced fusion now. which is a lot of resources to sink in. But he does have map control right now. At least if he's prepared to stop this force that is now come to counter him on the south side. Somehow this engineer managed to sneak round and get a radar built. Don't know quite know how that happened behind that Tech 2 force. And yeah, so but the thing is, Dolfy has plenty of time now. He can build some shurikens and stop this force. Bear in mind, he will know quite a lot because the grunts will mop them up quite well, but all these Lazarus bots are going to get taken out really easy. Don't need to worry there. And mines are starting to get hit here, which does clear out a bunch of the grunts. We're going to see everyone go. There we go. And rather than sending his forces directly towards the front at the top where the Cerberus is, rAndy instead actually shifting everything south. Look how many engineers he's got going down here. What does he plan? Plans on building a bunch of metal extractors, and he's going to probably just defend this bottom south side as much as possible. And that will get built really quickly with the amount of build power he's got there. We actually see experimental factory getting built. We're going to see some T3, everyone. And we are not seeing that from Dolfy. Dolfy just seems to be a little bit stalemated right now. He doesn't quite know what to do. Which is fair. He had the advantage right now. He had control of the north side right outside of his base. He unfortunately hasn't been able to secure this bottom side, and may actually be losing the air fight now as well. So there are some Tech 2 fighters there. And now we see one of the probably the most important fights here. Grunts are going out, not being used to surround the Tigers as the Tigers come in to take up some of the brunt of the fire. But instead, I feel like no Tigers were killed, and yet a lot of Grunts was lost. It was a bad trade there for Dolfy. He does get to keep the reclaim field, which is not much of 200. Meanwhile, on the north side, we just see scouts being zigzagged across the front line here in order to just absorb shots from the banishers. And people asking why he didn't bomb that. Well, because he can go around it. That's why. Doesn't care about it. With both of them having artilleries now, and a lot of banishers and defenses on that side, this whole section has basically become a no man's land. Unfortunately, the no man's land is closer to rAndy's base, but it's still a no man's land regardless. The fight is now on this south side. This is where it's back and throwing. And with the amount of build power that rAndy has on this south side, if he decides to build a bunch of defenses on this bottom side, they will get built so quickly that Dolfy will not be able to do anything to stop it. But this is the most important thing. T3 is now on the field. 2 Shivas. Now bear in mind these are also amphibious. So the question is rAndy gonna just send them through the water? And that Cerberus and all those units aren't going to be able to do anything. But no use for them yet. We see another good attack coming in here. The shurikens get mopped up pretty quickly. Dolfy does push in. I feel like he does have the unit numbers on this south side currently. But more reinforcements are being sent in pretty quickly. And we do see defenses start to go up here as well from rAndy. No Tech 2 down there, so we're not going to see any Tech 2 defenses. But all damage is damage at the end of the day. And the Shivas are actually just marching straight forward. And is this going to be the push that he needed? Shiva's tanking the damages from the Cerberus. Banishers behind, obliterating anything that their missiles hits. Unfortunately, they're still mostly hitting the scouts right now. One Shiva down. Second one about to go. Third one actually about to go as well. 2 left. 1 left. Unfortunately, it does not look like it's made as big an impact as he was hoping. Most of the Banishers are gone. 2 more Shivas just turn up. And that Cerberus will go down. And that was the focus of his entire front line. And Tech 2 is about to go down now as well from Dolfy. And the front line has been broken. Banishers will start pushing up now and slowly destroying everything. Fusion is about to go up here with this last Shiva. And did Dolfy have any? Dolfy did have some as well. Tier 3 built from Dolfy. Will he be able to get some of them up in time? 2 seconds to build one. That is ridiculously quick. And here they come. Dolphy's own Tech 3. As well as a push on the south here. But Tier 3 is more important right now. The amount of rockets coming out from those Banishers are going to be able to pretty much deal with anything. But as long as the grunts can absorb those shots for the Shiva, and as long as Dolfy is microing the Shiva, he may actually come out on top. Fortunately, he's not. He's paying attention to the south side. Vast amount of shurikens come out. No air support here. Does manage to stun the Shiva. The force on the south side actually gets mopped up here, leaving the entire south side of Dolphy's area completely empty. And this does look like it is the end for Dolphy. Saying that though, Dolphy now with the advantage of Shivas on the front line. The mass shurikens has completely stopped all of the Banishers. And the Shivas are now able to clear up the Banishers pretty easily, as well as the grunts. And the Shivas doing a great job here at holding off. Although the Shivas from rAndy is obviously a quantity a lot more. The bottom side here is getting mopped up. There is also strategic bombers inbound. And the economy now of Dolfy goes up. And that is the end. Great game from both players. Good to see T3 again in another 1v1. And this is why rAndy is the #1 player. Stayed cool under pressure. His base was being attacked from the front. Very close. Couldn't move out. And yet he still managed to pull it back for a win. So thank you all for watching. And I'll see you guys next time.